Chapter 1091, Fast and Slow, Yin and Yang. Per Gu King's prediction, the four puppet fighters treated Jian Wushuang as an eternal realm expert in the beginning. However, as the battle progressed, their strength gradually enhanced until they reached the level of a Dao master. They went from rank 1 to rank 3, and finally to peak of rank 3. Even so, it did not take Jian Wushuang much effort to deal with them. Then, the four puppet fighters rose to the battle strength of an elementary celestial master. It was only then that Jian Wushuang began to struggle. Celestial Master Yu Ding, who was watching the battle attentively outside the hall, shook his head. It's been an hour and the four puppet fighters still couldn't defeat Jian Wushuang despite gaining the strength of a medium-level celestial master. Looks like he'll be able to obtain the third soul-luring incense, but it remains to be seen if he can obtain the fourth. He looked forward to seeing what would happen. The third incense could burn for a month. The fourth was good enough to last an entire year. Though many celestial masters of Green Fire Palace had obtained the soul-luring incense, what most of them got was the second incense, the kind that burned for only a day. Few obtained the third. Boom! Inside the hall, a loud explosion reverberated as Jian Wushuang was thrown backward. He appeared to be in a very wretched state. Yu Ding immediately looked over at him. Did he lose? Jian Wushuang had indeed lost. With the four puppet fighters, whose strength had reached the level of a medium celestial master, working together, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang to soldier on for long. I've tried my best. I wonder what kind of soul-luring incense I got. The four puppet fighters stopped attacking after defeating Jian Wushuang. One of them went to the censer and inserted the largest incense into it. The incense was ignited immediately after being put into the censer. The fourth one. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. It's really the fourth one. Yu Ding could not help exclaiming when he saw what happened. Obtaining the fourth soul-luring incense meant that Jian Wushuang could devote himself to cultivation for a whole year under the incense's guidance. This was a great opportunity for him. Many celestial masters were able to make gains after cultivating for just one day under the incense's guidance. It would be even more effective if they spent 1 month cultivating, but Jian Wushuang now had a whole year to do so. What an enviable talent! Shaking his head, Yu Ding turned around and left. Just as he was turning around, the hall became completely closed off. The moment the incense was ignited, Jian Wushuang became the only person with the right to stay in the hall to meditate. Kid, this is your chance. Make full use of it, Gu King said. Not wanting to waste any precious time, Jian Wushuang immediately sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. Following the burning of the incense, a faint fragrance gradually permeated the hall until it reached his nose. He felt refreshed and relaxed all at the same time. Thus, he started to meditate. It went without saying that he meditated using the 3 sword principles that he created. Coalescent Sword Principle was the only one that reached the creation level. In order to upgrade it, he needed to integrate various sword principles to form an integral whole. Though his meditation went much faster than before thanks to the incense, he could not enhance the Coalescent Sword Principle as he did not have other sword principle as a reference. Therefore, he chose to focus on his 2 other sword principles, Aurora Sword Principle and Scarlet Yang Sword Principle. Jian Wushuang began with Aurora Sword Principle. He could only meditate one at a time. It was a pity that the incense was only effective on one person. Even though he had 2 original bodies, the incense was ineffective on the other one even if it had consciousness too. The speed of Aurora Sword Formation? He murmured. He had sunk into complete silence. In the blink of an eye, an entire month had passed. Jian Wushuang continued sitting cross-legged inside the hall, but a fresh idea was swimming in his consciousness. The idea came from one of his memories. It was his memory of the inauguration ceremony of the supervisor, where his father had killed Celestial Master Lei Yi. The idea came from his father's sword then. His sword was painfully slow, yet this was nothing more than an illusion. It was actually unimaginably swift. Slow. Fast or slow? The idea in his mind became clearer and clearer as he continued to recall the scene where his father used his swordsmanship. That's it. I finally understand it. No wonder I can't advance my sword principle to the creation level no matter how hard I tried. It didn't work even after improved its speed to its peak. So it turns out that it's not only about being fast, but it's also about being slow. The speed includes being both fast and slow. The Aurora Sword principle I created can only go fast, so even if it has the highest speed, it's just part of the speed. Its power is still limited. This is like a warrior of the ancient world. No matter how strong he is, he's still in the ancient world and doesn't know the vastness of the world outside. Therefore, he can never reach his peak. That's the case for my Aurora Sword principle. No matter how fast my swordsmanship is, it's just one kind of the speed. The real philosophy of speed is that one should meditate both the way of fast and slow, and then combine them perfectly. Jian Wushuang's eyes glinted with golden light. He had been unable to work past the bottleneck in cultivating the Aurora Sword principle. He now knew how to make a breakthrough. The Aurora Sword principle had reached the highest level, and all that was left to do was for him to create a slow sword principle. Once he combined both in a perfect way, he would be able to create the speed sword principle. It's not limited to just the Aurora Sword principle. Scarlet Yang Sword principle works the same way, he murmured. The Scarlet Yang Sword principle was the toughest and most positive of all sword principles. It sought the extremities. The opposite of extreme positivity was extreme negativity. Only by creating the Scarlet Yin Sword principle and combining it with the Scarlet Yang Sword principle, could one acquire the Yin-Yang Sword principle of the creation level. Having figured out this point, Jian Wushuang now had a clear idea of the reasoning behind his two sword principles. He continued studying them under the guidance of the soul-luring incense. Chapter 1092. Sudden Changes. Time flew. Before he knew it, an entire year had passed. The soul-luring incense inside the hall, massive as it was beginning to reach its end. The moment the incense was extinguished, the special fragrance that filled the hall vanished in an instant. The door was once again unlocked. Jian Wushuang, who was seated cross-legged, opened his eyes and rose to his feet. He wore a smile on his face as he made a small wave with his hand. Out of the blue, a sword light appeared. The dazzling sword light flew forward, moving so miserably slow that it seemed any Dao master could easily dodge it by using a body technique. However, never mind a Dao master, even a celestial master would be forced to confront the light with all his might without being able to dodge it. That was how fast the sword light was. The real speed sword principle is the combination of both fast and slow motions. The swordsmanship that my father manifested when he killed Celestial Master Lei Yi with a single strike might share a similar Dao with my speed sword principle. He smiled even wider after watching his sword light disappear into the void. He had finally made a breakthrough in his sword principles after meditating for a year under the guidance of the soul-luring incense. Now he had a second sword principle of the creation level under his belt. It was based on the Aurora Sword principle and included two conceptions of fast and slow motions. It was called the Speed Sword principle. With the completion of the Speed Sword principle, Jian Wushuang now had two sword principles of the creation level. Naturally, his strength also skyrocketed. What a pity that the incense burns only for a year. If it lasts for another 2 or 3 months, I could finish the Yin-Yang Sword principle. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. In the past year, he had perfected the Speed Sword principle as well as created the Scarlet Yin Sword principle, which now coexisted with the Scarlet Yang Sword principle. Both were close to a perfect combination. Once that happened, he would be able to create the Yin-Yang Sword principle of the creation level. Then, he would have a total of 3 sword principles of the creation level. It's just a matter of time before that happens now that I've found a way. It doesn't matter even if I don't have the soul-luring incense anymore. Jian Wushuang was delighted. He had benefited a lot in the past year. Jian Wushuang. Celestial Master Yu Ding's gentle voice drifted in as he walked into the hall. He came up to Jian Wushuang and asked, "How are things?" "Not bad," Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. "I'm sure you've gained a lot after cultivating a year under the guidance of the soul-luring incense," Yu Ding said with a sigh. "Since the rules of Green Fire Palace stipulate that we're only eligible for a soul-leading incense each, there's no reason for you to stay in Tai Ching Palace anymore. Let's return to Green Fire Palace." "Sure." Jian Wushuang nodded. He was content with all that he had gained in the past year. He set off for the wormhole with Yu Ding at once and traveled using the same path as they had come in. Just as they walked out of the hall and were still in the corridor of the palace. Boom! There was a loud explosion accompanied by a strong aura of spiritual power. Yu Ding's expression immediately changed. What's going on? Jian Wushuang frowned. Both of them sensed that the explosion and the aura of spiritual power originating from outside of the palace. It was not far from them. Is someone fighting outside? Jian Wushuang thought. Tai Ching Palace was located on the huge battlefield. Experts from both Green Fire Palace and the Jin Kingdom could be found on the battlefield all year round, searching for opportunities. Considering their intense hatred for each other, it was normal for experts of both sides to fight when they met on the battlefield. Come with me. With a serious expression, Yu Ding quickened his pace and brought Jian Wushuang to the gate of the palace right away. They hovered above the hall as they looked at the source of the explosion. Soon, several figures appeared in their vision. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, 3 golden-armored men besieged a silver-haired old lady equipped with a long stick. The old lady was bleeding all over and her aura was weakened as well. She was obviously severely injured. The golden-armored men emanated strong auras. 2 of them were medium celestial masters while the other was an advanced celestial master. The old lady was merely a medium celestial master. It would be strenuous for the injured old lady to cope with even one of them, but there was now 3 of them. Oh no. It's Celestial Master Silver Moon. Yu Ding's expression darkened when he saw who it was. Celestial Master Silver Moon? Is she one of us? Jian Wushuang looked serious. Yes. Yu Ding nodded solemnly. She has been adventuring on the battlefield. She's quite good at fending for herself and hasn't encountered major troubles for millions of years. But she's now facing grave danger. So what are we waiting for? Let's hurry and help her. Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. His Blood Mountain sword was already in hand as he was about to rush out. However, just as he moved, a transparent layer of restriction appeared in front of him. What? His expression changed. It's useless. Tai Ching Palace is quite unique. Though Temple Master Void has already tamed it, he can't take it away, so it has been left here on the battlefield. He keeps the restriction of Tai Ching Palace activated to prevent Jin Kingdom experts from breaking in. But that also means we can't get out of it, Yu Ding muttered. There's no way out? Jian Wushuang looked displeased. So are we just going to sit here and watch? I've reported this to Temple Master Void. He'll turn off the restriction as soon as he hears of it and we can rescue her then. But it'll take 2 breaths, Yu Ding said in a cold voice, with a tint of killing intent on his face. 2 breaths were merely the span of several seconds. This process was already very efficient. However, the passing of 2 breaths was more than enough time for Celestial Masters to launch a series of attacks. Could Celestial Master Silver Moon hold on during this time? Chapter 1093, Dead. Quick, Silver Moon. Run over to us. Just hold on for 2 more breaths. Just 2 more breaths and Void Temple Master will. Celestial Master Yu Ding spoke in a loud voice in hopes that it would reach Celestial Master Silver Moon's ears. However, before he could finish his words, he heard a soft groan and later saw Silver Moon falling feebly to the ground. The scene was devastating for both Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding. Yu Ding, I'll turn off the restriction on Tai Ching Palace now so that you and Jian Wushuang can rescue her. Remember to be careful. Void Temple Master's reply came as soon as he received their message. Yu Ding sighed. Don't bother, Void Temple Master. Void Temple Master fell silent. He realized that there could only be one implication of Yu Ding's words. Silver Moon had passed away. Alas! Void Temple Master suspended their communication after heaving a sigh. There were 139 Celestial Masters in Green Fire Palace. Now they've lost another. Yu Ding shook his head. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands with a grim expression. Though he had never spoken to Silver Moon, both of them were members of Green Fire Palace and comrades who had fought for the Green Fire world at the risk of their lives. It was a terrible thing to watch a comrade fall before his eyes without being able to do anything about it. Jin Kingdom. Jian Wushuang clenched his teeth. Suddenly, HM? Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding looked up at the same time. They saw 3 Jin Kingdom experts carry Silver Moon's body to the front of Tai Ching Palace after killing her. The experts stared at Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding through the transparent restriction. Then, the one carrying Silver Moon's body flung her at them. Silver Moon's body traveled like a flowing light before hitting the restriction around the palace. Bang! The Jin Kingdom expert exerted such enormous strength that Silver Moon's body shattered and turned into a bloody mist. Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding's teeth chattered when they witnessed this. Bastard! Yu Ding cursed loudly. Jian Wushuang's killing intent soared. Are you the coward of Green Fire Palace? The leader of the 3 Jin Kingdom experts, an advanced celestial master, sneered. Our monarch has ordered us not to trouble you as long as you stay inside Green Fire Palace. However, we're free to kill if any of you step onto the battlefield. Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding were livid. Pissed off, aren't you? If you've got guts, why don't you turn off the restriction, come out, and fight us 3? The advanced celestial master taunted. Suddenly, clang! A dazzling light burst out of the wormhole in Tai Ching Palace. 10 people rushed out of the wormhole amidst the flickering light. Simultaneously, the restriction around Tai Ching Palace was turned off. Shit! Let's run! Hurry and run! The 3 Jin Kingdom experts immediately ran when they saw the flaring light, completely forgetting how they had just taunted Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding. Since they were genuine celestial masters with decent speed, they managed to flee quite the distance and outran the experts coming out of the wormhole. Bastards of the Jin Kingdom. They're lucky that they fled quickly. Otherwise, how I wish to kill the 3 bastards. Voices filled with rage sounded one after another. 10 people of both genders and varying ages towered over Tai Ching Palace, each of them emanating a great aura. They were evidently the celestial masters of Green Fire Palace. They had learned of Silver Moon's predicament through the communication between Yu Ding and Void Temple Master. Those close to her rushed over through the wormhole. However, they were too late. When they stared at the bloody mist that Silver Moon's body had disintegrated into, they could still see a little of her bones, blood, and flesh. Their expressions were ghastly. They all lived such long lives that they had lost all of their families. Nothing in the Green Fire world were of concern to them, except for their Green Fire Palace comrades who had risked their lives in the fight against the Jin Kingdom. Silver Moon was one of their comrades. Naturally, her death pained them. Yu Ding, you were here when Silver Moon was killed. Why didn't you save her? A bald elder asked, nearly snarling. I wanted to, but the restriction was still there. I've immediately requested Void Temple Master to turn it off, but just as he replied, Silver Moon died. What else could I do? Yu Ding replied in a low voice, though the bald elder was still angry. He did not vent it on Yu Ding any longer after hearing the latter's story. According to Yu Ding, the Jin Kingdom experts probably ambushed Silver Moon. They injured and killed her before she could get help. If she sensed danger and got Void Temple Master to turn off the restriction earlier, she wouldn't have died, a petite and short young man said with a sigh. Though he looked young, his head was a shock of silver-white hair. He was the only one in the exceptional realm among the dozen celestial masters present, as well as the most senior one. His name was Chen. Following the short period of grief, the rest finally calmed down. Chen suddenly turned to look at Jian Wushuang. Yu Ding, will you introduce your friend? The rest also looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. They could see that Jian Wushuang was a mere Eternal Realm expert. This is Jian Wushuang, also a member of Green Fire Palace. Though he's still in the Eternal Realm, he has reached the top of the 3-star Imperial Kinsman Ancient God. He also possesses a number of trump cards and great battle strength. Hence he can rival ordinary medium-level celestial masters, Yu Ding replied. I've come here to take him to Tai Ching Palace. Oh. Chen and the others were surprised. Jian Wushuang saluted them and said humbly, nice to meet you, celestial masters. Naturally, he had to be a little more humble when meeting these celestial masters who were like old monsters who had lived countless years. Chapter 1094. I'll take full responsibility. Jian Wushuang? I've heard of the name somewhere. Oh, are you Nan's son? Celestial Master Chen asked solemnly. Nan's son? The Celestial Masters began to look at Jian Wushuang differently. They lived in the Green Fire Palace all year round. They rarely visited the Green Fire world, and thus, most of them did not know Jian Wushuang despite his fame. However, they knew him as Nan's son. Are you Nan's son? Nan? That bastard. It's said that he took Ji Wuming away from the ancient monster clan. That bastard. They began cursing up a storm. Jian Wushuang frowned and clenched his hands but restrained his rage. He could understand why they would have such an attitude and why they would curse his father like this. Kid, I heard you and your father were the ones who attacked the ancient monster clan and went up the heaven-ceasing peak to take Ji Wuming away. Chen glared at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly before adding in a low voice, Ji Wuming is my mother. Yes, she's your mother. But she's also the glimmer of hope in which Green Fire Palace earned after sparing no effort. She's supposed to shoulder the responsibility of the entire Green Fire Palace and Green Fire world. Now that your father has taken her away, that means all the efforts of Green Fire Palace are in vain. One of my sworn brothers, Celestial Master Peng, died because of your mother. If your mother could fulfill her duties, it would have made all our efforts and my sworn brother's death worthwhile. But now, he won't be able to rest in peace. Chen snarled when he said the last sentence. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands even tighter, so much so that he was stabbing his flesh with his nails. Taking a deep breath, he replied solemnly, I'll complete the tasks that my mother didn't fulfill. I'll take over the duties that she shouldered all by myself. You? Are you capable of that? Chen scolded. That's enough, Celestial Master Yu Ding said with a frown, finally intercepting their conversation. Celestial Master Chen, all of you, I understand your frustrations. But the 5 Palace Masters have made their decision on this matter. If you're unhappy with the decision, you can take it up with them. Besides, Ji Wuming is Jian Wushuang's mother and Celestial Master Nan's wife. Humans are selfish. If you stand in their shoes, you'll find that they haven't done anything wrong. Chen's expression changed. He stared at Jian Wushuang for a long time before finally flicking his sleeve. Since the 5 Palace Masters have made their decision, what else can I say? I hope the kid will be able to do something for Green Fire Palace. I don't expect him to be as competent as his mother. It'd be good enough if he even fulfills half of his mother's duties. He then turned around and left. Other Celestial Masters looked at Jian Wushuang with complex expressions but nevertheless, also took their leave. Soon, Jian Wushuang and Yu Ding were left alone in Taiqing Palace. Jian Wushuang was still clenching his hands. There was a tint of fortitude in his eyes that had never appeared before. Jian Wushuang. Yu Ding looked at him. Their attitude is extreme, but they have their reasons. Please understand them. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded. He did not actually blame Celestial Master Chen and the others. Mother. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth. He had learned about her mother from Jian Nantian. The day Yu Ding brought him to Green Fire Palace, he also questioned him and was told the truth. Since then, he could understand why Celestial Master Chen and the others were so furious, as well as why they blamed and cursed him and his father. The Celestial Masters had paid too great a price for this. His mother was a member of the ancient monster clan who carried a pure ancient monster bloodline. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Green Fire Palace experts found the complete corpse of a heavenly monster with a pure bloodline on the battlefield. There was an intact heavenly monster's inheritance in the body, which presented them with a golden opportunity. The inheritance, containing a superb secret skill, was very powerful. The Green Fire Palace experts then requested the ancient monster clan to send 10 of their clansmen with the purest bloodline to inherit the skill. There were tests for those who wished to get the inheritance, of which 1 out of the 10 clansmen passed. That was his mother, Ji Wuming. Ji Wuming was instilled with enormous potential after gaining the heavenly monster's inheritance and secret skill. The palace masters who researched the secret skill bluntly said that she would be able to become the leader of Green Fire Palace if she makes great strides in cultivating the secret skill. The leader. She could become the leader. The 5 palace masters who took charge of Green Fire Palace all had enormous authority, but at the end of the day, they were still not the leader. The so-called leader was the supreme existence that would lead Green Fire Palace to destroy the Jin Kingdom. Such a leader was supposed to be powerful enough to earn the respect of all Green Fire Palace experts. His mother possessed such potential. However, the secret skill was so unique that she had to pay a high price to achieve it. One of the principles was to be heartless. That meant she would have to abandon all emotions, including love, kinship, and relationship. The only emotion that she could keep was nostalgia for her hometown. In order to make her abandon all her emotions, Green Fire Palace made great efforts to make her experience 9 rounds of samsara, to experience 9 births and deaths under the guidance of the secret skill. The Jin Kingdom somehow caught wind of this and dispatched a great number of experts to kill her. The Green Fire Palace experts had risked their lives to protect her. It was a ferocious battle, second only to the war 5 million years ago. Green Fire Palace had suffered great losses in the battle. Over 20 celestial masters were killed. They had sacrificed so much all so that Ji Wooman could learn the secret skill as soon as possible and then lead the entire Green Fire Palace. After she entered the samsara, she practiced through her 9 reincarnations under the palace's surveillance. The first 8 reincarnations went smoothly, for Ji Wooman had successfully eliminated her emotions during this time. However, unexpected events occurred during her 9th reincarnation in the Nanyang continent of the ancient world. Chapter 1095 Golden Image. Ji Wooman encountered Xianxia in her last reincarnation and showed that she was ultimately unable to discard her emotions. Moreover, she even gave birth to Jian Wushuang. Therefore, the efforts made over her last 8 reincarnations were completely ruined. Green Fire Palace was furious when they heard of it. They immediately brought Ji Wooman back and imprisoned her on the heaven-ceasing peak so that she could forget about Xianxia and her son. They sought to send her back to samsara and start all over again. Now, Xianxia had rescued Ji Wooman, once again foiling their plans. Their efforts and the sacrifices of over 20 celestial masters were all vain. Naturally, the Green Fire Palace experts despised Xianxia and Jian Wushuang. Understanding this, Jian Wushuang tolerated the reproaches of Celestial Master Chen and the rest. He would be the one to complete the tasks that his mother had not fulfilled. Don't overthink it. Let's head to Green Fire Palace, Celestial Master Yu Ding said. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded and returned to the palace with Yu Ding through the wormhole. I've told you about Green Fire Palace and taken you to where you should have been. If there isn't anything else I can do for you, I'll be taking my leave, Yu Ding said, bidding Jian Wushuang farewell. Thank you for your help, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. One more thing, Yu Ding said. If you wish to adventure on this battlefield one day, inform one of the palace masters first. He'll give you some necessary objects. Everyone is eligible to receive some objects from the palace master before setting off. Necessary objects? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Tang Emperor used to be one of the palace masters. I heard that you're close to him. Maybe you'll receive his message token. You just need to give it to him then. Yu Ding smiled and then left. Jian Wushuang's face twitched. He was very interested in the objects. There were numerous opportunities and secrets hiding in the huge battlefield around the Green Fire world. Jian Wushuang wished to have an adventure there, but now was not the right time. He was still not strong enough. Strength. With his eyes glinting, he clenched his fists tightly. Soon, he arrived at the Fire Points exchange office. He hadn't exchanged for the 2 treasures that might be of use for him. Jian Wushuang, I've put aside the treasures Dao Yuanzi left behind that could be useful to you. Exchange the rest for Fire Points and see how much you can get, Ji King said. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded and handed his interspatial ring to the spirit to appreciate its value. He got the result in just seconds. 13,800 Fire Points. Jian Wushuang frowned. Dao Yuanzi was an expert from the blood-killing sect of the eternal chaotic world. How could all of his treasures be worth only 13,800 Fire Points? The sum was smaller than he expected. Ji King tittered. You think too highly of Dao Yuanzi. Sure, he came from the eternal chaotic world, but he was just an ordinary expert. He possessed some good treasures because he belonged to the blood-killing sect. The ones with great value blood-killing plate armor, chaos gold bead, and spaceship are all things you might need in the future. The other treasures aren't that valuable. We're already in luck to exchange them for that many fire points. Jian Wushuang agreed. 13,800 fire points was a small sum, but he was satisfied that they were enough to exchange for 2 treasures that he wanted. Jian Wushuang paid 10,100 fire points for the golden image secret skill and killing bead and then left. Green Fire Palace, along with its many palaces and mansions, was located on a huge floating land. Many of its buildings were empty. Jian Wushuang entered one of the unoccupied mansions, set a restriction around it, and began cultivating without the interruption of the outside world. He started with the golden image secret skill. The skill was divided into 3 steps, with the last step being the strongest. It was purely defensive secret skill. Usually, only those of or above the Celestial Master level were eligible to cultivate the first step of the secret skill, let alone the 2 other steps. He was eligible to cultivate it because of his exceptional physical strength as a 3-star Imperial Kinsman Ancient God. The cultivation of the skill was a complicated process. It took him a year and great efforts to complete the first step of the skill. He immediately noticed changes in his body after completing the first step of the secret skill. His skin would emit a faint golden light whenever he used his spiritual power. He looked extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang, being a 3-star Imperial Kinsman Ancient God, you're stronger than ordinary Celestial Masters. Now that you've learned the Golden Image secret skill, your defense capability should exceed that of all Celestial Masters. More importantly, you still have the blood-killing plate armor. The armor could cut down 90 or even 99% of the force of the attacks targeting you. The remaining force could hardly hurt you. Few Celestial Masters are now stronger than you in terms of defense. Of course, when you become a Dao Master or a Celestial Master combined with a Dharma body, your defense will be even more exceptional, Jiyu King said. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and felt delighted from the bottom of his heart. He was aware of how strong his defense had become. It might not be enough for him to ignore the attacks of Celestial Masters, but coupled that with Jiyu King's healing ability, it was good enough for him to last a long time in a battle against a Celestial Master of the exceptional realm. Next, he began studying the killing bead. Jiyu King, you said that this bead is useful to me. What's its purpose? I don't even know how I should begin to refine it. Jian Wushuang frowned. He had tried refining the bead after obtaining it but failed each time. What was the use of having a treasure that could not be tamed and recognize its master? Who said it's necessary for the bead to recognize its master? Jiyu King asked with a mysterious smile. Chapter 1096. Confident Enough. Warriors of Green Fire World like you are so short-sighted that you don't know their usage even if you obtain good treasures. Jiyu King tittered. Listen, the killing bead can neither recognize the master nor has a need to. Nevertheless, you can still use it perfectly. Did you sense the killing intent in the bead? He asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had checked the bead when he first received it and discovered that the reason behind its name, the bead contained an incredibly potent killing intent. The killing intent inside the bead was stronger than anything Jian Wushuang had imagined. No one in Green Fire Palace would be able to deflect such terrific killing intent. The essential part of the bead is its killing intent. That's what you need to refine, not the bead itself, Jiyu King said. Refine the killing intent? Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. How? He had never heard of directly refining the killing intent inside an object. That's why I said you warriors of the Green Fire World are ignorant. Of course you can refine killing intent. You just need a refinement technique. Jiyu King grinned. Refinement technique? Jian Wushuang was startled. You can only find the technique in the eternal chaotic world. When I was there with King Luo Zhen, I happened to learn a technique that could be used to refine killing intent. I can teach you that, Jiyu King said. I see. Jian Wushuang was delighted. Hurry and teach me the technique. Jiyu King imparted the technique to Jian Wushuang without hesitation. Jian Wushuang spent 3 days in meditation after learning the technique and finally mastered it. Use the technique and refine the killing intent. Be careful, the killing intent inside is strong. It'd be disastrous if you can't control it after refining too much of it, so take it slow, Jiyu King said. I understand. With a nod, Jian Wushuang began using the technique to refine the killing intent inside the killing bead. He was careful to only refine a tinge of killing intent. It works. Overjoyed as he was, he did not slow down. Half a day passed by in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang, seated in a lotus position, finally stopped what he was doing. He opened his eyes and took a deep breath. That's enough. It'd be strenuous to control the killing intent if I continue refining it, he murmured. Half a day had gone and the killing intent that he had refined was far less than 10% of the total contained in the bead. Jian Wushuang had done his utmost. Now that you've refined some of the killing intent, do you know how to apply it without my instruction? Jiyu King asked. Sure. Jian Wushuang grinned. He knew very well how to use the killing intent. Killing intent had an enormous impact on one's consciousness. If he combined the killing intent with his consciousness attack, one of his best tricks, it would greatly enhance his attacks. I've just created the swordplay of speed. I should make some amendments to the Heaven's Bane, which is based on the swordplay of speed, so that it contains two conceptions of fast and slow. The Heaven's Bane contains consciousness attack, so all I need to do is try my best to modify it. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. Heaven's Bane was extremely weird. It was one of his killing moves. After making a breakthrough in the sword principle and refining part of killing intent in the killing bead, there was still great potential for the killing move. Jian Wushuang immediately began researching. With the end of spring came summer, which was soon replaced by autumn. Time had really flown by. It was still rather calm in Green Fire Palace. The experts there boasted of extremely long lifespans. For them, 10,000 or even 100,000 years passed as quickly as the blink of an eye. However, time was precious to Jian Wushuang, a newcomer to the palace. This was the 8th year since he first arrived in Green Fire Palace. He stood alone in the courtyard of the mansion that he lived in. He held the Blood Mountain sword in hand and his eyes were partially open. The peach tree in front of him blossomed every season of the year. This was, of course, due to the unique landform where Green Fire Palace was located. With the passing of a breeze, a peach blossom fell gently from the branch. Before the peach blossom could reach the ground, Jian Wushuang moved. He drew out his sword and brandished it. A splendid and mighty sword light flared. The sword light was dazzling and fascinating. However, the sword light moved extremely slowly. However, it was the same sword light that cut the peach blossom, which almost reached the ground, in half. It only landed on the ground when the sword light vanished. Jian Wushuang withdrew his sword and opened his eyes. He smiled when he saw the two halves of the peach blossom. I've finally perfected Heaven's Bane after several years of research. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had completed the creation of 3 sword principles and equipped each with a suitable swordsmanship. The coalescent sword principle was equipped with bladed surge. Speed sword principle was equipped with Death Shadow. Scarlet Yang sword principle was equipped with Heaven's Bane. And now, the strongest and the most terrific one in his 3 sword movements was undoubtedly the Heaven's Bane. The movement was also his strongest killing move. When I created the speed sword principle, the power of Tao increased significantly. Then, I cultivated the golden image secret skill and improved my defense capability. Now I've enhanced the Heaven's Bane until it's at its prime. It's now perfectly combined with the speed sword principle and the killing intent of the killing bead. I'm now much stronger than when I was in the ancient monster clan. Now that my strength has reached this level, I won't be able to make much progress in a short time if I continue my cultivation here. It's time for an adventure on the battlefield. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly. The huge battlefield was a land of opportunities as well as the place where Green Fire Palace and Jin Gold Kingdom experts met and kill one another. Jian Wushuang held much anticipation and eagerness for the battlefield. Before this, he was not entirely confident as he was not very strong. But now, he was confident enough. Chapter 1097, Ancient God Power. Celestial Master Yu Ding told me to visit Tang Emperor before going on an adventure on the battlefield. Jian Wushuang murmured to himself. He took out a token and said, "Grand Teacher. Kid, has everything been all right since coming to Green Fire Palace?" Tang Emperor's response was swift. "Not bad." Jian Wushuang smiled. He got straight to the point, saying, "Grand Teacher, I'm planning to adventure on the battlefield." The battlefield? So soon? Tang Emperor was a little surprised but nevertheless said, "Come to my palace." "All right." Jian Wushuang nodded. Green Fire Palace was located on a huge floating land with many lofty mountains, each of which had a magnificent palace towering on the top. Tang Emperor, as one of the palace masters of Green Fire Palace, lived in one of those palaces. Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the palace and met Tang Emperor in the hall. "Kid, I know you possess the battle strength of medium-level Celestial Master before coming to Green Fire Palace. You've improved so much since then. Nevertheless, you shouldn't underestimate the battlefield. Not only are there many Jin Kingdom experts lying in the wait, but there are also many dangerous places there. It could turn fatal even for me. You're still too young and have enormous potential. Why not postpone your adventure until you become a Dao Master?" Tang Emperor asked, trying to persuade him. "Grand Teacher, I've naturally taken those elements into consideration before daring to go on the adventure." Jian Wushuang smiled. "I see. I won't force you to change your mind then. I've found out some information for you. One of our Celestial Masters, Ghost Shadow, will be going to the battlefield soon. He's currently cultivating a secret skill and won't leave until 50 years later. You can wait for him to go with you. He also has the battle strength of medium-level Celestial Master. You can look after each other during your journey," Tang Emperor said. "Thank you, but I intend to go alone." Jian Wushuang turned down the suggestion. "Alone?" Tang Emperor frowned. In his opinion, it would be risky even if Jian Wushuang went with Celestial Master Ghost Shadow. Yet Jian Wushuang wanted to adventure alone. "Are you sure?" Tang Emperor could not stop himself from asking. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. He was quite aware of the dangers and would not have minded if Ghost Shadow could set off right now. However, he would have to wait for 50 years since Ghost Shadow was still in cultivation. Other Celestial Masters might not mind, but that was quite a long time for him. Besides, he was accustomed to adventuring by himself. The risks, on the other hand. The deceased Celestial Master Silver Moon, who also had the battle strength of a medium-level Celestial Master and strong only in terms of defense, dared to venture on the battlefield for 100 million years. Jian Wushuang was confident that he was much stronger than Silver Moon and had greater defensive power. If even Silver Moon dared to venture alone, of course he would not lose to her. "Since you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. There are 3 objects that I give every expert who is going on an adventure on the battlefield. Look at them carefully." With a wave of his hand, Tang Emperor summoned 3 flowing lights that flew toward Jian Wushuang. The flowing lights floated in front of Jian Wushuang and he looked at them one by one. The first was a map made of an exotic beast's fur. This map was drawn based on the experience of the experts who had been exploring the battlefield for tens of millions of years, Tang Emperor said. Even though so much effort had been put into making this map, it nevertheless includes only a small part of the battlefield. Most of the battlefield is still uncharted territory. Now that you're going there, perhaps it'll be of use to you. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. He saw that many places, such as the 3 secret lands under the control of Green Fire Palace and Tai Ching Palace, were marked in the map. Many naturally dangerous places in the exploring areas were also marked out. The parts of the map unmarked were obviously uncharted areas. After all, the battlefield was too vast and unpredictable. The area that Green Fire Palace had explored for tens of thousands of years was just a small part of the entire battlefield. Jian Wushuang turned to look at the second object. It was a token. The token is used to seek assistance from people nearby in times of crisis, Tang Emperor said. Assistance? People nearby? Jian Wushuang was confused. "Kid, you're quite clear about the vastness of the battlefield. When our Celestial Masters are in trouble, such as being chased by Jin Kingdom experts, we wouldn't able to send experts to rescue them in time. The token would make all the difference in such a scenario. The token is used to seek help from nearby allies. Once the message is sent out, Green Fire Palace experts nearby would sense the message and your position through their jade stones. Then they'll immediately come to your rescue. However, it won't work if there aren't any of our people nearby, Tang Emperor added. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile, indicating that he understood the usage of the token. Finally, he looked at the third object. It was a golden water bead. Jian Wushuang could sense the enormous power contained in it by merely looking at it, and that power felt rather familiar. It's the ancient god power. Jiyu King, who was in his body, pinpointed the origin of the bead before Tang Emperor could open his mouth. Ancient god power? What's that? Jian Wushuang asked, frowning. It's a power refined from the ancient god power. It's the purest form of power and has multiple uses. Even among ancient gods, it takes one of a certain level to gather this power, Jiyu King said in a solemn voice. Is that so? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Tang Emperor explained, the third object is the ancient god power, which contains the purest form of power. If you absorb it, you'll experience a drastic improvement in your strength for a short period of time. For example, our celestial masters can double their strength after absorbing a drop of this power for a short time. Chapter 1098. Hit the road. Double the strength? Jian Wushuang was surprised. An increase of only 10 to 20% was huge enough once one became a celestial master. When he was at the ancient monster clan, Celestial Master Heartwithered only improved his strength by 30% through the large and exquisite spirit-gathering spell formation. Yet a drop of the ancient god power could double a Celestial Master's strength? This alone was a testament to how miraculous the ancient god power was. That's for ordinary warriors. It's a different story for you, Jiyu King suddenly said. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was curious. The ancient god power is the outcome of the ancient god clan. Therefore, only real ancient gods can use the full extent of power. Since Celestial Masters of Green Fire Palace don't possess any ancient god bloodline, it can only double their strength, but you're the real Imperial Kinsman ancient god. You can improve your strength trifold or even fourfold. Is it really that impressive? Jian Wushuang's heart was filled with joy. Of course, the ancient god power is extremely popular in the eternal chaotic world. Though it's not as effective for ordinary experts, it can be enormously helpful for experts such as Tang Emperor and Void Temple Master, Jiyu King said solemnly. In addition, the ancient god power can't be stored by ordinary ancient gods. Normally, only those who are stronger than 6-star gold-armored ancient gods can gather the power. Therefore, it's rare even in the eternal chaotic world. I've seen ancient god power in the Fire Points exchange office before, but I didn't bring it up because it's worth too many points. I never thought that Green Fire Palace would be so extravagant and present a drop of the power to every expert setting off for the battlefield. Extravagant? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. It was indeed extravagant if only those stronger than 6-star gold-armored ancient god could gather the ancient god power. If Green Fire Palace can give away the ancient god power so easily, I'm guessing they have plenty of it. Ask him how they collected so much ancient god power, Jiyu King said. Jian Wushuang nodded and inquired about this as suggested. Tang Emperor did not conceal the truth. There is probably plenty of the power on the huge battlefield. The Green Fire Palace experts could sometimes find some while venturing outside. How much they get depends on their luck. It varies from several drops to over 100 drops. Tang Emperor smiled. We obtained much of it in the past, but we've also spent a lot of it. Hence, we try to be conservative and only present a drop to those who are leaving for the battlefield. If you want to acquire more of this power, you may exchange for it in the Fire Points exchange office. It's 5,000 fire points for each drop. I see. Jian Wushuang appeared to have deepened his understanding while Jiyu King was shocked. There are that many pockets of ancient god power in the battlefield. Could there be top experts of the ancient god clan among those who fought on the battlefield? Jiyu King murmured. Now that I've given you all the objects, you can decide when to depart. The battlefield is unusually dangerous. Be careful and come back alive, Tang Emperor said, leaving him a warning. Thank you, Grand Teacher. Jian Wushuang left after expressing his gratitude. He headed straight for the battlefield after bidding Tang Emperor farewell. However, Before doing so, he discharged his original body. Though I'm confident about my strength and defensive power, I won't be in danger of losing my life if I keep my original body here. He also left behind some precious treasures such as the Mountain River map and the spaceship. The Mountain River map was a chaos divine treasure. Mighty as it was, he could not effectively exert its power. The same could be said for his 9-province seal. He dared not to use the spaceship as danger loomed in every corner of the battlefield. He left them all behind as he saw no use for them there. He took only the blood-killing plate armor, blood mountain sword, and killing bead with his world body and headed for the road. With the green fireworld being the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang reached the battlefield as soon as he stepped out of Green Fire Palace, and the vast expanse of the ruins were large amounts of building debris, left untouched by the wind even after hundreds of millions of years. The Green Fire Palace experts have searched the battlefield nearby numerous times, so there's no need to linger here. Others would have found most of the opportunities available, and the rest would be concealed in hard-to-find places. Holding the map made of animal fur, Jian Wushuang pondered for a short moment before an idea struck him. I'm going to explore the uncharted territories. The places that experts from the palace had explored were only a small part of the vast battlefield, as were the treasures and opportunities found. Most of them were still left untouched and undiscovered in the uncharted territories. Since he was here for the treasures and opportunities, he ought to explore places that no one had ever been to. Thesarius still far from the closest uncharted territory. It will take me over a decade to get there. Even if I rush over, I need to hurry up. He then began running at full speed. Since he was now at the explored area, there was no need for him to worry about natural dangers, as those were clearly marked on the map. Thus, he ran unbridled. He did not come across even a single person in the decade he spent rushing over to the closest uncharted territory. Neither Jin Kingdom nor Green Fire Palace experts appeared on his way there. Chapter 1099. Golden Armored Man Underneath the Stone Pillar. A scarlet-robed figure holding a long sword flitted across the air above the battlefield. Jian Wushuang held a wine pot in hand, drinking from it as he flew. It has been over a decade, and I haven't seen a single person. How boring. He shook his head. Though there were a number of experts adventuring on this huge battlefield, the chances of meeting them were very low. He had not met even a single person in the past dozen of years. It was natural for him to feel a little upset, as he had not cultivated for long and had never been through these many dull days like this. Jian Wushuang, you will soon enter uncharted territories. Be careful, Jiu King warned. Got it. Jian Wushuang nodded and put aside the wine pot. With a shake of his body, the smell of wine completely dissipated. Half a day later, he reached the uncharted territories. He slowed down and became even more cautious than before. There, all he saw was still endless battlefield ruins. Didn't you use to cultivate the Scarlet Eye secret skill of the ancient god clan? You can put it to use now, Jiu King said. Scarlet Eye secret skill? Jian Wushuang was doubtful. That skill could be used to see through all illusions. It would have been useful if the battlefield was shrouded in mist that limited his vision. However, he could see clearly without any obstacle whatsoever here. It's not just for looking through nihility and illusion skills, but also for seeing things more clearly. Jiu King continued, you're on a battlefield that houses many treasures. Look at the ruins. They may seem ordinary, but they might turn out to be treasures. You can't see the treasures with the naked eye, but the Scarlet Eye secret skill can increase your chances of finding them. I see. Jian Wushuang agreed. He immediately used the Scarlet Eye secret skill. He began to gain a broader view as well as a clearer and more accurate vision. Jian Wushuang continued to venture in the uncharted territories at a leisurely pace. Just like that, 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang, who had been moving ahead, halted abruptly. What's wrong? Jiu King asked. Instead of replying, Jian Wushuang pinpointed a direction and rushed toward it. After a moment, he arrived in the space above a desolate ground. He overlooked the ground while beaming joyously. He had a clear view of the ground while suspended mid-air. There were long spears scattered all over the ground, all of which were covered in a layer of dust. Their power was also constrained, making them seem ordinary. If someone passed by without looking carefully, he might not be able to detect these long spears. Since Jian Wushuang was using the Scarlet Eye secret skill, he immediately recognized them. These long spears were magic weapons, or more precisely, emperor weapons of peak level. There were even so many of them here, to boot. Jian Wushuang waved his hand at the ground, summoning a wind that blew through and cleared the dust on the long spears. The long spears were restored to their original appearance. The black long spears were made of a material that Jian Wushuang had never seen before. Since they were identical in shape and size, he assumed that they were systematically made magic weapons. There were over 120 of them. Top-grade Emperor weapons are worth 10 fire points in the Fire Point Exchange Office. That means there are about 1,000 points here. 1,000 fire points were equivalent to 1/5 of the ancient god power. Considering the minimal effort he had put in to obtain these long spears, of course he would be delighted. He then collected all the long spears with a wave of his hand and continued on his way. An ancient bronze stone pillar towered over the fringe of ruins left in between two bare mountains. The pillar was huge, with a height of over 10,000 feet and the width of a house. Patterns of golden dragons and phoenix lined the pillar, lending it an air of magnificence. The most attention-grabbing detail was an ancient, grandiose word carved in the center of the pillar. The word was kill. The word imbued the magnificent stone pillar with an impressively potent killing intent. An elegant man in golden armor sat under the pillar, his eyes focused on the word kill on the pillar. He was so transfixed that he could not look away. The man had remained under the pillar for hundreds of years. Suddenly, the man's expression changed and his eyelids flew open, revealing a pair of eyes that glinted with sharp golden light. He then got up and passed through the wall beside him. A scarlet-robed figure was flying over from the opposite direction that the armored man had gone, that is. The moment Jian Wushuang arrived at the huge pillar, he also saw the man in golden armor under it. I finally found someone after having traveling through this battlefield for so long. Though he was smiling, his heart felt heavy. The token that could sense his allies was not responding. That meant he had come across a Jin Kingdom expert. Golden armor? People from the Jin Kingdom wear golden armors. It might be a kind of systematically made magic weapon used for defense. Swoosh! The man in golden armor turned illusionary as he charged toward Jian Wushuang. Be careful, he's an advanced celestial master, Ji King said. He's an advanced celestial master? The same level as Patriarch of Empyrean Glory? Jian Wushuang's pupils contracted in shock and his expression became serious. However, he did not entertain thoughts of escaping. Before entering the Green Fire Palace, he would have immediately fled in such a scenario. Things were different now. I finally met someone on the battlefield and he's from the Jin Kingdom to boot. Jian Wushuang thought. This is my first encounter and fight with a Jin Kingdom expert. I'll definitely not retreat from this battle. Chapter 1100. First Battle. Jian Wushuang's urge to battle reached its peak. He had drawn the Blood Mountain sword long ago. On the other hand, the man in gold armor, who had dashed forward at great speed from the stone pillar, looked extremely murderous. You're foolish to not have escaped after seeing me charge across. The man in gold armor's gaze was extremely cold. A giant gold hammer appeared in each of his hands, each one of them billions of catties heavy. The man struck just as he appeared before Jian Wushuang, the two giant hammers raining down upon Jian Wushuang at the same time. They certainly did not waste any time on words. Once the man in gold armor realized that Jian Wushuang was not one of his people, he immediately struck, and with a potentially lethal blow to boot. The Green Fire Palace had been warring with the Jin Kingdom for exactly 5 million years, and there were countless killings on both sides. As a result, both parties were already hell-bent on destroying each other. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted coldly. At the same instant when the man in gold armor swung his giant hammers, Jian Wushuang had slashed angrily with the Blood Mountain sword, boundless power in his move. It was a swordsmanship called Bladed Surge from his coalescent sword principle. Bam! Bam! Two loud sounds from their weapons' clash rang out, as the giant hammers smashed simultaneously into the Blood Mountain sword. Jian Wushuang could feel the huge force of the blow and his figure shook. His arms were also a little numb from absorbing the impact of the blow. "Burst forth!" shouted Jian Wushuang angrily. The hidden force within the bladed surge formed into the second kind of power, and it was also released. The man in gold armor said, as his expression changed slightly. His figure also could not help but retreat by a few steps. Heaven's bane! Jian Wushuang grasped his sword with both hands. He could feel vast amounts of ancient god power flowing into his arms, and soon the Blood Mountain sword was giving off a huge blood-red glow. He then released the extremely powerful sword light toward his opponent. The man in gold armor's gaze was electrifying, and he was consumed by killing intent. In an instant, he channeled the power of an advanced celestial master and swung one of his hammers at Jian Wushuang with matching ferocity. The blow easily smashed through the void, destroying everything in its path. Both attacks were alarmingly strong and powerful, and there was a loud booming sound as they clashed. Jian Wushuang's figure flew backward as if it had been shot from a cannon, but the man in gold armor merely took a step back. From the clash, it was pretty evident that the man in gold armor had the upper hand. After arriving at the Green Fire Palace, I spent a year in the Tai Ching Palace practicing my skills. I then created the speed sword principle, and my strength has indeed increased, but the biggest strength of my sword principle is till speed. It's not suited for power, and currently, I am only on par with a common advanced celestial master. This expert from the Jin Kingdom strength, on the other hand, absolutely rivals that of a top advanced celestial master. Jian Wushuang thought. The man was, however, looking at Jian Wushuang in amazement. He lowered his voice and said, "From your aura, you're merely at the eternal realm, but you've possessed such great battle strength. Who are you? Why haven't I heard of your existence amongst the experts of the Green Fire Palace?" "My name is Jian Wushuang," replied Jian Wushuang coldly. His feet began to move the instant he stopped talking. A huge gaping hole immediately appeared in the void below Jian Wushuang's feet as his figure appeared phantom-like in a flash before the man in gold armor. He then swung his sword at his opponent with a swordsmanship that was weird and hard to discern. "This speed," the man in gold armor said. He was surprised as he saw Jian Wushuang's attack drawing near his opponent's speed was extremely great. The man immediately swung his giant hammers simultaneously. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, put on a perfect display of the speed of his swordsmanship. Clang! 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 As sounds of metal smashing into each other rang out, the void around the combatants had completely collapsed. Ripple after ripple of the impact from the clash spread out with amazing speed, resulting in the ground beneath them, which was already ruined. To be damaged further, it looked even more terrible. The man in gold armor was already striking with maximum effort, and even though each blow of his hammer carried huge power, Jian Wushuang could obviously handle the impact from their blows easily. He seemed to not be affected in the least bit and was clearly holding the upper hand in terms of speed. "Humph, I don't have time to fool around with you." The man in gold armor grunted coldly. Suddenly, his body gave off a golden glow and two coarse and thick arms appeared out from the top of his shoulders, holding similar giant gold hammers like his other two arms. "4 arms?" asked Jian Wushuang. He could not help but be stunned. What secret skill is this? 4 giant hammers came swinging at Jian Wushuang simultaneously. All of a sudden, he was flustered. Jian Wushuang could easily handle the attacks from 2 giant hammers. He even held the upper hand. Now, however, 4 giant hammers were swinging at him at the same time. The tables had completely turned on him, and he was even having trouble blocking the attacks. Dong! 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 Heavy sounds rang across the sky as the giant hammers rained down on Jian Wushuang with alarming speed. He steeled himself and evaded the first attack. In the next instant, however, a fierce gleam flashed in his eyes. D. Jian Wushuang hissed chillingly. A sword light was formed. Anyone who saw it would find it extremely beautiful and sorrowful at the same time. As it shot out toward Jian Wushuang's opponent, it blocked out all light from the surrounding sky. The man in gold armor could not help but stare at it as well. As he looked at the sword light, his pupils suddenly contracted. To his naked eye, the sword light was moving very slowly, but somehow his consciousness told him that it was coming toward him at an extremely fast speed. Also, as the sword light was formed, a faint echo from a sword also rang out. All of a sudden, a fearsome consciousness attack was directed at the man in gold armor. Not only did Jian Wushuang launch the consciousness attack, but he also utilized a portion of the killing intent inside his killing bead. He combined the consciousness attack with his killing intent on a direct assault on his opponent. What? The man felt his brain hurt, but luckily for him, it subsided quickly. He then lifted one of his hands, wishing to block Jian Wushuang's physical attack with a giant hammer, but it was moving too quickly for him. As he had also been momentarily stunned by the consciousness attack, there was no way he could completely block his opponent's sword. At last, the sword light slashed through the raised arm. The strong tearing force ripped his armor apart and sliced off half of the arm. The man was not flustered even after suffering the wound. His figure had retreated far away, and he turned to leave after giving Jian Wushuang a look of mixed emotions.